Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much. Okay, winning with data. If you were here for the last session, they were talking about storytelling and how Gen AI is changing that. We are also talking about data and storytelling in the sports context. And our session, Winning with Data, how data has changed the way that sports broadcasters like Prime Video tell these stories that are happening in real time on the field, on the track, on the ice, on the putting green. What do you call that thing with the little one? The green. Yeah. So welcome to our living room this afternoon. I'm Rachel Kelly. I'm at AWS and I'm supporting Amazon's wonderful internal media and entertainment businesses, including Prime Video and Studios. Super psyched to be here.
My name is Ari Enton. I support our AWS sports partnerships. So that spans everything that we do on the AWS side with NFL, F1, PGA Tour, Bundesliga, and all the kind of tech projects where we kind of merge the ones and zeros of how something works under the hood with the X's and O's of how it kind of plays out on the field.
I'm Sam Schwartzstein. I work on our Prime Video live sports team. I help build out our AI Prime Insights to help take fans closer to the game. You can be a 10-year veteran and watch the game from a unique play, but we use AI to help take you even deeper into our games or races. I work primarily on football and NASCAR.
Awesome. And just to kind of set the context a little bit more for you guys, we have a super fun sizzle reel here from Prime Video.
This is basically telling you what the quarterback's looking at. Where are the safeties? Where is it leaning? There's some blitzes that the defensive alert picks up that I'm not seeing as a quarterback.
Whoa, look out. I did not want to think that a machine could predict blitzes better than the humans, but I came to it and very much respect the power.
The Burn Bar is an AI tool that calculates fuel mileage for all the cars in a NASCAR Cup Series race.
We're totally screwed up on fuel here.
The ability to calculate every car in the field just makes me a better analyst in the booth.
That's the best mileage by a very big chunk.
Show you what you need.
Welcome into the home of NBA on Prime. You can see the LED court.
We got guys on the wings. We got guys in the corner.
Back-to-back trays. Swatted. Return to sender. See, we're learning things as we go.
We're learning as we go.
Show you what you need. Let's go.
So awesome. So fun. So we are going to talk about all of the sports today. Starting off with motorsports. So Sam and I worked very closely last year on the NASCAR Burn Bar for Prime Video's inaugural season. Super fun. We're going to start by talking about that and that journey. Do you want to tell us, spill the tea on all the drama we had last year?
So the Burn Bar was the thing about have to do with fuel mileage. And for those who don't know, on a NASCAR, they do not have a fuel gauge. So there's nothing telling you how much fuel is currently in the fuel cell. And so when we were talking to teams, and as the next gen car has become more popular and how it's been in use, there's been a lot more fuel mileage races, but broadcasts don't have as much data as the teams have because teams are calculating what they think their car is burning in fuel. And so my boss, Alex Strand, set up a bunch of meetings with different teams. And every time we'd ask them questions about racing, what would they tell better stories? They're all a little cagey about fuel. And that made us be like, that's the problem we want to solve. And so we went out there and we were able to solve how much fuel a car is burning when a driver is actively driving the car for track position. So during green flag racing. And so we went out there. We were looking at many different ways to solve this different problem. Ultimately settled on some AI to help us get to that next level to be able to now be within 0.29% of what a ground truth model would have a team being their fuel burn. So we can now tell those stories as teams are trying to extend and stretch. Like we saw Chase Briscoe at our Pocono race, extending how much he's burning versus his competitors to try and make a short pit stop actually last the rest of the race. And so we had 0 passing in our Pocono race, our last race of our season last year. But we had some of the best television we had for 30 laps because we were able to tell a unique story bouncing around because we had that data that differentiated us from other broadcasts.
Yes, absolutely. And that was no other broadcaster had done that before. And it was so exciting, backstage I've never been so excited looking at a dashboard, and seeing numbers change. right? But you could see, oh, look, these guys know they're about to run out of fuel. And we know because we can see how much they are conserving. You know, they're in these higher places and they're trying to stay that way. This guy, he knows he's fine, right? Right. I'm thinking of Michigan International with Denny Hamlin
and William
coming
Byron
back
runs
from
out
10th. Oh my gosh, the drama. And I was not a NASCAR fan a year and a half ago. I got into it with Sam, came to the Pennzoil 400 here, right? Read the NASCAR physics book.
Yeah, you wrote the fluid dynamics model when we were looking to see how much fuel they'd put in. Not a trained physicist, but Rachel was.
No, but I know one.
Yeah. Do some research, and it was funny enough. I had to pull it up on Monday because there was a fuel-based race that took place in Kansas the week before. And I was like, wait, I know someone.
Yeah,
has this data already.
I love it. And we got a hype. We're gonna come to F1 in a second because of all the cool stuff you've been working with.
I actually had a question on the burn bar though, right? Like if you think about it from a fan standpoint, like I would imagine there are like two reasons why you think in NASCAR, right, someone is coming into pit. It's either tires or fuel. So from like a fan standpoint, like how do you come up with like the visualization aspect of that? So you're giving them new kinds of insight into what's actually happening on the track.
There's a third reason too.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a yellow flag.
And so it's a great question. And one of the more fascinating things. So what I love about working at Prime Video is the collaboration we have. So you heard Steve Letarte talking in our sizzle reel. He was a former crew chief for Dale Jr., won a bunch of races, got close to winning a championship, was the fuel guru before teams had access to data. He won the most fuel races, but also famously lost a couple races trying to stretch fuel. He hates bringing up that Coke 600 that we always do. It helps the sizzle a lot of times when we're presenting this different places. But we asked him, hey, how would you communicate this to drivers? Because the way that we focus on all of our Prime Video, our Prime Insights is if the teams care, we care. And we try and represent that data that way. So the bar actually is a representation for what we expect that track to be. How hard are you pushing that car? That's why the bar is such a good visualization. We also evolved. Week one of the Coke 600, we only had a bar.
Yep.
Over time, we added the miles per gallon, which was not originally something that Steve wanted to do because I think I can tell the story. I think I can use that data because when you see miles per gallon, you're probably expecting 16 or 30. That's what all of our cars say when we buy it, and it turns out to not be true. But
I got a Prius. It's like 40.
Right, yeah. You see them between 4 and 9 a lot of times at these racetracks. And so how can we help visualize that if this car is pushing hard or not pushing hard? And then combining it with that data that lets Steve and Trevor and Dale, all of our on-air talent, tell those unique stories. It's cool.
Yeah. And this season, right, you're prepping up for the next few races on Prime Video coming up soon. Tell me a little bit about how you've been using QuickSuite in your prep this season.
Yeah, we use Quick a lot to be able to double check all the work that we're doing. It's helping build out models. It's so funny. Every week it gets better. I don't know how it's doing that, but
love to hear that.
It's we're now at the point where we're no longer really refining our model, but we're looking forward. What do we project for all our 5 races coming up this season? How do we project out for a racetrack that hasn't had the next gen car at it? We're going to Coronado for our finale this year, going on Naval Base for a road course. And so now we're able to use that, and Quick can now automate a lot of the work that we were doing last year. Now make it even better and quicker, and also create new visualizations and storytelling. Also helping us get better at more unique tracks across the board, which has been a huge value add.
Love that. And that's the perfect segue to Ari to talk about AWS and F1 and Track Pulse.
Yeah. And I'll bridge it here by saying the way you're talking about Quick and how these leagues can kind of use data and AI, you're almost getting to the point now where you're answering the what if questions, right? Before they actually happen. And that's extremely useful for teams, leagues, broadcasters, and the players themselves. In F1, we introduced this tool called Track Pulse last season. And when you think about F1, it's got actually a lot of similarities to NASCAR, but then there are some wrinkles that are specific to that individual sport, right? You have 22 drivers on the course. They're going up to like 230 miles an hour, and data is coming off the car. I think 1 million data points per second, right? And that's a lot, right? What do you do with all that? So the initial project with F1 was to kind of take these mountains of data and deliver insights to broadcasters and to the team so they could, change their race strategy. They could highlight to fans watching on broadcasts, hey, this is the area of the track where it's really, really fast, and this is where maybe one racer could overtake another. This season, in February earlier this year, we actually incorporated that same now proven methodology and information and made that directly available to fans to kind of control their own viewing experience, right? Because, I think we see this across all our sports, right? There is no one way to watch and engage with sports. So, let's say, a traditional broadcast for F1 might focus on, Red Bull versus McLaren, right? But let's say you're a Williams fan, right? And they're not getting a whole lot of airtime on TV. This track pulse tool will actually allow you to choose the racer or the team that you're interested in and follow their specific, journey around the track and get your own personalized results and storylines from that.
I love that. We use the term edutainment a lot inside, and that's like the more data, the more you're learning about the sport, the more excited you're going to be about it. And so that's where the data like that, giving that personal experience is such an awesome advantage that F1 has.
Love it. All right. So next we're going to talk about some football.
Football.
I'm going to hand it to you first, Ari. Tell us a little bit about Next Gen Stats. And actually, I think the new hotness is NFL IQ, right?
So hot right now.
So hot.
It's in the streets. Everybody's talking about it. We've been, partnering with the Next Gen Stats team for 10 years. And when you think about, the amount of information and the evolution of both of just technology in general, as well as the game of football, like 8 years ago, AI was not really a thing for football or analysis. Now every single year we're, delivering new AI powered stats, right? Rushing yards over expected, catch probability, with the certain maturity of the insights and information that you can pull from a data platform like Next Gen Stats, which is used not just in broadcast, but all across the league, impacts schedule release, it impacts rules and operations. But there are ways to kind of deliver new insights to fans that, go beyond the 15 seconds that you might see a stat kind of pop up on TV. And one of the examples is actually NFL IQ. It basically is an NFL offseason, menu of sorts. It takes combine information, college production of NFL prospects, pro day information, and it merges that with other aspects of the NFL offseason. So free agency, and kind of link certain prospects to, individual teams, coaching tendencies, player archetypes. I think we hear about archetypes a lot. It's like, how can you use AI to build models that identify player comps? Is this wide receiver really good in the X, Y, or Z position on the field? And then you can basically, what we did with NFL IQ, we embedded an AI assistant, into the product itself. And it's not like an AWS product. It's on NFL.com/IQ, subtle plug. And, what's cool about that though, right? If you look at how many NFL draft tools there are available, right? There are a lot out there right now, but it's still up to you as a fan and an individual to go find the information that you want, right? Like last year, I think I had like 30 or 40 tabs open on my browser looking for different kind of insights. What's cool about this is that the AI assistant almost just kind of flips that dynamic, right? Where you can just ask the question and this AI assistant that's trained on Next Gen Stats data and over 20 different NFL like approved and verified, data sources is delivering that answer right to you. And it gives you the context why, right?
If you're preparing for watching your team draft on Thursday, spend some time on this platform. There was a big article in Athletics today talking about how teams are doing this. And what I love about what AWS, what we do on Prime Video is we're forward looking, and we actually are probably market makers and culture makers when it comes to how the teams operate in a lot of ways. Because teams now are more accepting of this data. You heard John Lynch this morning being asked about AI and how he's using these tools. And it's like, you can't but imagine what Mike Band and Keegan and Bill Smith and the team AWS built with next gen is not moving the market and changing how people think about the draft.
It is, and I think you could say the same thing about Prime Vision, right? Which is our next topic, and how I wanna ask you about the evolution of Prime Vision over the years. But first, how often do you get football teams calling you up and asking you for these models?
Yeah, well, a lot. That's been a fun one, especially with end of game suite. I'll get back to that one in a little bit, but it is fun talking to teams at the combine every year, being like, how do we make this happen? I had a head coach at a team ask me if they could use one of their models to teach him how to read coverages.
I bet his fans are looking forward to him learning that.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised who would ask. It was really cool.
Would I?
Yeah, and then it's fun because Andrew Luck was my college roommate, and so I used to make him do everything. Please do this for me. And it was really funny watching him lose to the AI model on predicting blitzes, and he got really upset about it. Not many people get to see him upset, but that was fun for me. I like seeing him wrong, but
I want to see him be wrong because I saw him kill Matt Barkley so badly.
that's true. One of the things that I love about this team is we work with an international team that's a bunch of scientists. They don't know a ton about football, and I come in as a subject matter expert and help decide what are the problems that fans and customers are telling us that they want to learn more about the sport, that hidden game of football. And the first one we did was defensive alert, picking up blitzes. I played center in college. It aligned to something I felt like I could be confident in doing. And we were able to hit it out of the park year one, which I did not expect. I don't think anyone really expected it. Making it to the main broadcast the first year we launched from our Prime Vision, which is our alternate broadcast where we get to test and incubate, really treat it like a startup within the larger company. And now you see there's 6 things on the screen right now showing different things that we do. And we can't do pocket health, which has been a passion project for a while. When you guys hear sacks and pressures, those are often correlated much more with the quarterback than the offensive line, but they're often attributed to the offensive line because they're not testing the process of the play. But pocket health was a visualization. We did probably 20 different visualizations to measure the process of protecting the quarterback. I go on paternity leave, had a baby. The visual was a tether between all the players, and I come back and it's 1,000 dots on the screen. My boss, Alex Strand, and producer Scott Carpin were able to put something together, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable visualization. Again, collaborating across teams. And now we can tell that story, and teams are more fascinated by this storytelling because they have a hard time communicating to their quarterback, hey, you need to be in this spot. Here's why you need to be here. And this visualization lets teams know where the quarterback needs to step up, avoid the rush, and what quarterbacks are doing the right thing. And the last one I'll talk about is our end of game suite, which is something about that every fan at the end of the game is doing the math in their head to try and figure out what does my team need to do to come back? How do we make win probability, which is this ethereal stat? How there's no way a team can come back from 1%, but there actually is a way, but what is that pathway? And that's what we're doing. We're using AI to help say, when do you need to score by? When do you need to get a stop by to have enough drives to come back in the game? If I get a stop, when will I get the ball back? And ultimately, when will the game be over? When can my team go to victory formation? What do they have to do? And this is the one that teams had because a lot of this data, if you just give a number to a coach, they're not going to understand it. But if you're saying to the coach, hey, you need to pick up the pace. If we need to score by, I would say recommend going for a field goal early so that we have enough time to get a second possession. We may not get a possession if we don't score quickly. And so this has changed a little bit of how teams are approaching this upcoming season because they know, oh, this is a new communication device to make it more understandable versus just saying this is a plus EV play to do.
I love it. As a admittedly casual football fan, there are only so many hours in my day. I have more babies than he does. But Prime Vision reminds me of when I started watching football in college. You can't go to USC and not watch football. And my buddy, who had been watching football his whole freaking life, explaining everything to me. That is Prime Vision. It is your buddy who has been watching football 20 years longer than you, explaining that, this guy's signaling blitz. And why was that holding and this wasn't? We're not to that yet.
Yes, I think it's what's great is working with our on-air talent team.
Yeah.
Because they can help explain. Like you heard Fitz and Witt, they'll take a pocket health clip and explain, here's why the offensive line's blocking this way. And then Fitz can come in and say, here's why he should move. Here's how a quarterback will move up, and here's where his eyes are. And so it's just building tools to make them better broadcasters.
Yes, and tell those stories better.
Well, you're almost answering the questions, right? That a regular fan will see on TV, like pocket health in particular. You made a visual that fits into the vernacular of the game already, right? Like so many times you'll hear broadcasters say pocket presence, right? I'm a visual learner. Actually seeing that on screen, I'm like, oh wow, that's actually the optimal way to navigate and manage that pocket presence. And I think that's the true mark of effectiveness for fans, when you can take something that people already talk about, but you make it palatable for them.
Yeah, when I was at the Super Bowl as local, I live in the Bay Area, and I was walking around and I couldn't get a credential to go in to the media day. And the guy goes, wait, that's pocket health guy. It's on the dots on the screen. I was like, okay, yeah, okay.
Did they write that on the badge? Pocket health guy?
No, but he referred to me as the pocket dots and the pocket health guy all the time.
Love that. I can think of worse things to be called. All right, we're going to talk next about the NBA, and I'm going to hand it to you, Ari, first to talk about NBA inside the game and these cool new stats that AWS and NBA have been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting October last year, we embarked on a new partnership with the NBA, and the Inside the Game platform. That's basically like a net new statistical benchmark that we're building from the ground up with the league. Historically, they actually haven't had a lot of metrics or insights that go beyond a traditional box score. They had dunk score, which is really interesting. We introduced 3 this year. I think 2 are particularly kind of interesting. One is shot difficulty, right? Where you're basically looking at dozens and dozens of factors, is there a defender in the shooter's face? How close are they? Are they closing in fast? Dribble speed, dribble height, all these different factors to assess, was this a high quality shot, and what was the likelihood of it going in or not?
Yeah, how much was skill and how much was luck?
Right, exactly. Yeah, half court, unless you're Curry, is still not that great. The second one, and to the point we were just talking about, like pocket health and how it's just something fans see with their eyes, was gravity score. I love gravity score, right? You look at a player like, I just mentioned Steph Curry, right? You could see whether he had the ball, it was an on-ball player, or he was off-ball, he's running around the court. The guy just warps the court. So multiple defenders are just gravitating
like a little black hole,
right? Yeah, just
sucking them up, sucking in all that defensive power,
right? But to be able to put mathematical rigor and apply AI to actually quantify what that is. We made a metric -100 all the way up to 100. If you're more than 0, that means you got gravitational pull. That's really good. I think that the next iteration of it too will be, what kind of offensive opportunities did this open up, right? It's not just enough to say like, oh, you had these 2 defenders chasing them all around the court. It's like, okay, what did that translate into? Is that a wide open corner 3 for somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the nature of how we are going to continue to progress with, the NBA stats platform. It's pretty neat, right? Because it's Hawkeye data, it's pose estimation, right? We're tracking 29 different body parts, and capturing it 60 times per second.
Wow.
That's a lot, right? You know exactly what that player is doing, how they're moving on the court. And to be able to take that kind of data and information and assess like what new kinds of insights the fans want next, that's pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah, I loved Gravity the first time I saw it because, like you said, it reflects what the broadcasters are already going to talk about, and it passes the smell test. There are a lot of people who make analytics, and they're going to make it, and they're going to make the numbers say what they want it to say. But when Steph Curry and Jokic and Luka are up near the top, it makes sense. But then you can find somebody in that 9-10 range where you might not expect them to have a ton of gravity, and it lets you now tell a new story. Anthony Edwards is now in that same stratosphere from a gravity perspective, and how does that open up Rudy Gobert, which has helped him the other night. So I think that's why I loved that stat so much. I think leverage was also a really cool stat because in leverage, we measure win probability in football, and did you gain it? But you also lose it if you have a poor choice. And because there's so many plays, in basketball to know if you made the shot, but also calculating what would have happened if you had made it or had you missed it, and look at that whole world because somebody has to take that shot. Everyone wants to chase two things in sports analytics, momentum and clutch factor. And I think this one is one of the closer ones to get into that precipice.
Nice. And just gives again, storytelling, to bring it back to that theme, it gives the fans greater appreciation for the skills that they're seeing on the court when they can see, specific metrics around it and measure players against each other. Where's your favorite player measure up? It's really cool. So as we start to wrap up our time here with everyone, and thank you all for joining, let's look ahead to the future. You can go first. What are you most excited about for the future of storytelling with data in sports?
Yeah, well, I am playing Pebble Beach next weekend, so I'm going to go with golf. I think golf is such a fascinating sport to look at from an AI and analytics standpoint, right? Because you're talking about, it's not a stadium, right? It's 150 acres. You have 14 balls in flight at any given point. You're tracking 300 data points per swing, per player. And again, right, like, what do you do with all this data? So in 2020, AWS and the PGA Tour, we built and launched this tool called Tourcast, right? It's basically digital recreations of 37 courses that the PGA Tour plays each year. And it gives complete layouts of the courses. It's used by players, caddies, broadcasters to kind of help them line up their strategy, going into each round, depending on pin location. But then there are new kinds of fan capabilities on top of that are pretty cool. So one thing we introduced this year was called Putt Path, right? If anyone played Tiger Woods video game golf, you saw the little bars. It's almost like the Pocket Health version of putting, where you're basically calculating all the slope, the blades of grass, what type of grass, and the speed of putt to per break to actually have it go in the hole. We're doing AI commentary, right? Supporting 30 different languages to deliver golf in over 200 countries around the world. That's a lot, right? And it's all AI-based language models, right? That's delivering this sport to fans all over the world.
Awesome. All right. What about you, Sam? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, we got Prime Vision NBA, so my teammates produced that. We have the Coke 600, which is kicking off our NASCAR season, which I'm super pumped about. But we're
Memorial Day weekend.
It's one of the best days in sports, motorsports, starting in Monaco, then into Indy 500, then to the Coke 600. It's an awesome day. I think we're also working on our new features for next year, and there are some really exciting things. The tooling that we can build now, using our Kiro system to be able to make new tools, to learn more about our data, to be able to iterate faster. I used to show dots to all of our teammates, being like, hey, look, we've found this blitzer, because we were taking the RFID shoulder pad chips and creating XY coordinates for every player. And the player would light up and I go, see, we found a blitzer. And they're like, what is that even going to look like on broadcast? Now we can iterate over time and test to make sure, any new feature we have, by the time it shows up to the customer, it's been vetted hundreds of times already. So I'm super pumped by the new tools that we have, the new features that we're working on. I have my PR guy Harrison here. He won't let me talk about them, but I'm really excited to be able to look forward to all the great events that Prime has and how we will use data for storytelling.
Wonderful. Love it. Sports storytelling has come so far with data, and there's so far to go still. Thank you both. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.